South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rockin' dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show. Every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grand View Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Midway home in the National Football League season. I don't know if that's a good thing, bad thing. He may be getting comfortable finally betting the NFL this year. We're happy to be with you as always. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White. Alongside it is Sports by the Book. Well, we usually say this about college, where there are some very intriguing games today, obviously. There's one at Lambeau Field that might be the most intriguing of all. This early slate, a little bit left to be desired, at least on paper, which probably means we're going to get some anarchy here today in the NFL, Alex.
I completely agree. Couple dogs that really stand out that I do like, but I mean, some of these favorites I think are in trouble. We do have a great division game as well with the Bills and the Dolphins. As we know, Buffalo has their number since Josh Allen's been there, so we'll break that down. But yeah, I think we'll have some fun games this morning.
As always, all the parlay cards are ready. Everything's out already. I just want to bring this up because we're contractually obligated now that we're in the month of it, Alex, because I've been told you're doing one of these a week now. The $25,000 college rivalry jackpot parlay card. So when you're here making your bets today, filling out your ties win parlay card and whatever else, it's $5 for the last weekend of the college football season, and you go 15-15, you're going to have a real chance of winning $25,000. Boy, there's some wacky results in college. I know Alex and Kenny will talk about them tomorrow. Ryan and I will talk about them tomorrow as well, because today is all NFL, but we got to bring that up. $5 for that jackpot parlay card the Saturday after Thanksgiving. All right, let's go into the NFL today. And boy, the rotation numbers did us no favors here right out of the gate. Let's start with the game in Nashville. Titans hosting the Patriots, arguably the 2 worst teams in the AFC. And I think you have a legitimate argument on this point with these two. Good news for New England. Drake May cleared protocol, concussion protocol that is, and he will play. So that is very good news on the side of the New England Patriots. Yet I know they came back with Brissett a week ago, but you want to see the young quarterback play in May, and so far, I actually think May's been pretty solid out there in his first few starts in the NFL. No Will Levis again. He's still hurt, so it's Mason Rudolph now for the 3rd consecutive game for Tennessee. L'Jarius Sneed's also out for the Titans. They're arguably their best defensive player. So bad news there on the Tennessee front. Alex, it's 3.5 behind us. If you want the New England Patriots, this is the best number you're going to get, because everywhere else is New England minus 120. Plus 3.5, because Chris and company don't go up that minus 110 juice on NFL sides. Plus 3.5, minus 110 New England is the best you're going to find anywhere.
Nothing really for me in this one. I do lean to the Patriots, and you brought it up about Drake May, but in their last 3 games, so for the season, the Patriots averaging 15.5 points a game. In their last 3, it's bumped up to 20.7. So we have seen their offense really come alive here, but as you mentioned, neither of these teams really good. I mean, we've got New England 2-6 straight up, 2-5-1 against the spread, and then the Titans 1-6 straight up and 1-6 against the spread. So it's been tough for these two to hang around in games and to even cover that spread. So I'd lean to the dog here, getting that field goal and the hook, especially here at the South Point.
This really just feels like a scenario where this is just a number take, more so than anything, Alex. Tennessee, whose their lone win was against the Dolphins at their bottom base, or not quite their bottom, because Huntley at least started that game, but pretty darn close to their bottom so far this year. And look, we knew this was going to be a process for Tennessee, where Vrabel goes. You have a young quarterback. They had that very weird offseason where they go out, they trade for L'Jarius Sneed, a high-end corner. They signed Calvin Ridley. They didn't really know where they were at. They finally trade DeAndre Hopkins 2 weeks ago to Kansas City. But this is a team that's in a very weird spot, and I'm not certain they should be favored by more than a field goal against anyone in this league, other than maybe Carolina at this rate, Alex. This would be a number to take on New England. Now, could Tennessee win this game by 2 touchdowns? Of course they could. Patriots, other than you mentioned it, a little bit better on offense, but their defense really has struggled all year long, except for that game against Cincinnati week 1, and realistically that game against Tyler Huntley and the Dolphins. Even last week, probably should have lost that game against the Jets the way it went out. Jets defense just choked at the end of that game. But this would only be a take of 3.5 on this one. Also, we could be looking at Tony Pollard-related stuff yet again, Alex.
Well, and Tony Pollard, though, he did not practice all week, so I did want to look at his props, and I was looking at his combined rushing and receiving. It's 69.5. No, his rushing is 69.5. His median on the year is 82. So combining that with his receiving as well, I think that is a good spot. I just don't know if he's going to play as many snaps as he usually does, not practicing all week. On the flip side, you could look at the Patriots, look at Stevenson, maybe even just attempts, because when you look at the Titans defense, you do have to give them credit. They are number 1 right now in opponent passing yards, allowing just 151 per game. Might give the rookie quarterback in Drake May a little trouble, and they'll have to rely on their running back there. So that's how I would look at it with Ramondre Stevenson.
I'm curious with May real quick, and this is going to be the theme of these young quarterbacks today. Just curious how these guys look against, well, for Bryce Young, second start back after the benching, second time against an opponent this year. May on the road here. This is actually, remember, this is Drake May's first true road start because, yeah, I know Jacksonville was the home team, but that's still more of a neutral in London.
Right.
So this is the first true road game in the U.S. for May here today. All right, let's go to the second game on the board, and the numbers starting to move on this one. Chris and company of the lone 1.5 remaining on the Los Angeles Chargers in the market. It's mostly 2, and that just happened a few moments ago on the L.A. front. Look, Chargers, we've talked about it all year, Alex. They have been banged up from the get-go this year, but they're as healthy as they're basically going to have been all season long. Johnston's back at the wide receiver position, which is big for Justin Herbert because it's his best receiving option, who hasn't really been there for this season. Offensive line's as healthy as you can ask as well. They take on Cleveland, who, Alex, coming off of a gigantic win a week ago against Baltimore. The question is, how much of that was just, all right, we're without Jameis Winston. We're with Jameis Winston without Deshaun Watson for the first time. Does the Magic have a second week in it, or is this the Chargers snap the Browns back to reality here?
Starting with the Chargers, as you mentioned, they do get Johnston back for their wide receiver core, but Herbert threw for 350 and then 280 in the last 2 games, nearly 9 yards per attempt. So they're really starting to open up their offense. They're more two-dimensional instead of just ground and pound, which we saw them start very conservative with Justin Herbert having an injury preseason. But yeah, I like the Chargers here. I laid the 1.5. I think this is an overreaction, and Winston was very fortunate last week, and we know this about him, but the Ravens dropped 4 easy INTs. That game could have gone either way, and if you're going to have him throwing that much per game, I think it was like 41, they're going to be in trouble here. And the Chargers defense has been very good this year, so I don't love that they're on the road and the travel and all of that, but I think they are the better team, so I think 1.5 is a nice number, especially when the look ahead was like 3.5.
Yeah,
at least.
there was some 4 even in the market, but once Watson's season was over, that's when the numbers started to really move. I'm going to stay out of this. I want to see how the Chargers look, because this kind of feels like an in-game scenario where the Chargers, even with having their line back and healthy, they struggled to block the last 2 weeks. They struggled even in the win against New Orleans last week. That was a weird game last week against the Saints, that 26-8 game. Chargers were better in the box score. They're clearly the better team in that game because the young quarterbacks between Rattler and Haener both were not particularly good, even though Haener wasn't awful in relief. But the week before against the Cardinals, they really struggled to block in that game. And I'm concerned about their ability to block. Look, if there's a strength of Cleveland's defense, their pass rush still has elite names. We obviously know how great Myles Garrett is, and Arian Smith there as well. I would be a little bit concerned about the Chargers blocking here today more so than anything. Also expect another big game out of Cedric Tillman on the Cleveland side at wide receiver. Had 2 touchdowns a week ago. I think he's their number 1 receiver moving forward with Jameis in command of that offense. I want to see how this looks in game. We'll be looking to bet Cleveland more likely than not, but we're going to see no play pre-flop. Don't mind Tillman anytime touchdown if you can get north of plus 350. Don't bet that plus 260 that's at BetMGM. That's a horrible number. Don't bet that. Bet at least get 350 on Tillman anytime, Alex.
I don't hate it if you get more points here with the Browns. I do think this is going to be a lower scoring game, ground and pound from both sides. I think they will rely on Nick Chubb here and vice versa with J.K. Dobbins and company for the Chargers. But I do think they are the better team. But I also have them in my top 10 already, the Chargers. So we'll see how that goes today.
Let's, oh boy, some of these games early in the rotation numbers, the numbers did us no favors here today, Alex. Let's go to Carolina next. Bryce Young's getting a start for the 2nd consecutive week. Derek Carr's back for New Orleans. So the Saints, remember, week 1.
Yep.
The Saints, we got duped. We got duped that the Saints offense was, this is going to be this high-flying offense. First 2 weeks, 91 points. Since then, they've lost 6 straight games. 47-10 week 1 against Carolina, and quite frankly, it wasn't even that competitive with how bad it was. Panthers barely 4 yards, not even 4 yards of play, not even 200 yards of offense at 193. Saints over 6 yards per play in that game in a 47-10 win. Alex, I'm curious to see how Derek Carr looks coming off that side injury. If he's okay, this is probably a stay off. I don't know. 7 points at home in the NFL when it's 2-6 versus 1-5 is a lot of points to be getting if you're Carolina. But they're a mash unit on top of being not talented enough to realistically compete in this league.
Both teams are getting healthier. So Panthers are getting some more weapons here for Bryce Young. And then Alvin Kamara's the healthiest he's been in a while. Get Derek Carr, of course. I'm looking at the total in this one, but I'm just going first half. And if you remember in week 1, this is one of my favorite unders, and the Saints ruined that themselves. So over in the first half, you can get 22. Carolina's allowing 22 points per first half, the league's worst. Saints averaging 16, which is tied at 4th, which they haven't even had Derek Carr for the last 4 or 5 weeks. They're also playing the 5th quickest at 28.2 seconds per play. Carolina comes in at 9th, and they're passing 60% of the time. I think they're going to have to continue to do that. I do think the Saints will get a boost here with Derek Carr and a competent quarterback. So I like first half over 22.
Over 22 first half for Alex. It would only be Carolina plus a 7. Bryce Young had one good drive last week while the game was still a game, and then they didn't do anything until Denver just stopped playing on that final drive. Oh, boy. You really want to – this just is one of those for me. Like, you really want to enjoy your Sunday sweating out a bet on the Carolina Panthers at this point, even if the numbers dictate a potential play here. Maybe I'll just sweat that first half total with you, Alex. Let's just root for no defense early and get to the half 14-10. I don't care which way, and get that total over.
I don't blame you. I was tempted, especially with the 7.5 there with the Panthers. But now at this number, it's just the difference I have in the power ratings between these two teams now with Derek Carr back. I think that number's right, even on the road. So, yeah, let's stick with the first half.
Let's go to game number 4 on the slate here today. The Miami Dolphins head to Western New York to take on Buffalo. So, Alex, we've talked about it. Miami's gotten owned since Allen has come into the league. Since the Bills have started winning divisions, Miami's only beaten them once, and that was that weirdo game where Buffalo outgained them by over 300 yards, but just kept turning the ball over in the red zone or not converting. Miami, again, as healthy as you could ask at this point for the Miami Dolphins, and it didn't help them last week because Tua looked good early. Yeah. Miami fumbled that game away and ended up losing to Arizona, who, again, Cardinals just might be much better than we expect. No Javon Holland still in the secondary, but that's really the biggest name that isn't on IR that's out today for Miami. With that all said, Alex, I think this is the moment. Again, you look at the AFC East. Buffalo's 6-2. The Jets are currently in second at 3-6. Miami's at 2-5. New England's 2-6. Buffalo with a season sweep over Miami and a road win at New York already. I know it's November 3rd. It basically puts the division on ice, barring a epic collapse or a Josh Allen injury. Even a Josh Allen injury probably wouldn't even be enough for Buffalo not to win the division at this point. And I think this is a romp. I think this continues the trend of Buffalo running Miami out. And for the Dolphins, this has been the season from hell, and it's their own doing. I know Tua is now back, but look at the 2.5 games that they've played with Tua so far this year. If ETN doesn't fumble going into the end zone week 1, Jacksonville wins that game going away. Week 2, Tua had already thrown 3 interceptions and a pick 6 in that game before going out with the concussion. And then last week, Miami was in pretty much control of that game. They're up 10-0 after 1. They're up going to the fourth quarter. And they're leading with 5 minutes to go, and they lose the game by a point because they let Arizona go down their throats at the end of the game. I think Buffalo rolls. I just think they're a much better team, and Miami is just in one of those seasons that nothing is going right, Alex White.
And I have to admit, I was wrong about the Bills because they are a very good team. And
you and I both.
Definitely in the top 5 right now. If they didn't lose that game to the Texans, which they easily could have won, they'd be 7-1, and we'd be talking about them right there with the Chiefs and the Lions. So I agree with you. I think it is all Bills. I did not lay the number. They are 5-3 against the spread. Dolphins just 1-6. I'm concerned to see how Tua plays as well because he did get hurt in the first matchup against the Dolphins. So I'm just concerned that he might be playing a little scared. I think that total's a little high, and I know that's crazy to say with these two teams, but first half, I'm looking at first half under 24.5. I think Miami's defense has been really good since Tua has been out. And right now, first half points in their last 3 games, opponents average is 5.7, and it's 12 on the year. And Buffalo's been a very slow starting team. I don't know if they are necessarily in this one against their rivals, but I think 24.5 going under that for the first half.
I don't mind that. The biggest issue is do you get a Buffalo Bill onslaught from the start? And remember that game against that first go-around was 24-10 at halftime, but it was a really bizarre game because, remember, Miami just kept turning the ball over and setting up Buffalo in great position. Allen only threw 19 passes in that game. He only had to throw for $139 in that 31-10 win because they didn't have to do anything throughout that game. But Buffalo, just looking at the box score all the way through, Buffalo only averaged 5.5 yards per play. They only had 247 yards total. But Miami's negative 3 turnover differential and sub 5 yards per play, totally the difference in that game. So again, this is for Miami more so than anything. This was the year where, again, this goes for both the teams chasing Buffalo that were realistic playoff contenders going into the year. This is the year Buffalo was going to be down. They don't have a real number 1 wide receiver. Traded for that and Amari Cooper now. And you're supposed to come up and go get them. And both those teams, the Jets and the Dolphins, have failed immensely so far at being able to do that. And I think Miami's season goes out with a whimper here today because if you go to 2-6, sure, you can come back. You could. Schedule is not crazy down the stretch for Miami, but same deal with the Jets. It's just you're putting yourself so far behind the 8 ball that you basically got to be perfect the rest of the way. And I don't think either of those teams are capable of being perfect the rest of the way.
Really have to credit Joe Brady, right? Because what he has done with their offense.
Yeah,
and
for
James
Buffalo,
Cook and not putting Josh Allen in these situations where he throws the ball away, right? I think he has one INT on the year.
Josh Allen threw his first pick of the year last week, which was the final Sunday of October. Allen leads the NFL in touchdown to interception ratio at 14-1. And again, you're 100% right on Joe Brady, because since Brady has taken over, and that was the last year, that was after that Monday night game against Denver, they fired their offensive coordinator. Allen still threw some picks down the stretch. He still had to get through some things. But he has been so much more in control since that game against Denver. Again, Allen was leading Allen led the NFL in interceptions a year ago at 18. It's a different guy, totally different guy, playing the best football of his NFL career, except for that 6-game stretch where they should have beat Kansas City 2 years ago in the playoffs. All right, now we get to a game that I know both of us are going to find a way to aggravate ourselves with, Alex. The Atlanta Falcons welcome the Dallas Cowboys. If you want the best number in the world on Dallas, come down to the South Point and bet it. It's the only 3.5 in the market. Everyone else is 3 juiced favorite. They just don't want, the other books don't want to go to 3.5. Chris and company already have. 52 is your total in this game. And look, Dallas, we've talked about them all year. Massive disappointment at 3-4. Defense has been mediocre to bad. Prescott has thrown the ball, has thrown plenty of interceptions in bad spots. But then you get the Falcons. It doesn't matter that it's a new coach and a new quarterback, Alex. It's the same thing. The only difference is they're winning a few more close games than they have in the past, and they're in total command in the NFC South at the moment at 5-3.
I think this number is really high, 52 for these two, but we could have some mistakes here. I know this is a must-win spot for the Cowboys, who have just looked terrible, 3-4, 2-4-1 against the spread. But if you look at the division for the Falcons, I mean, they really need to take advantage here, especially with Tampa Bay now having their 2 best wide receivers out and playing the Chiefs tomorrow night. I think this is almost a must-win for them to really get on top of that division. I hate it, but I am on the Falcons. Just money line. The other thing with the Cowboys, Zeke did not travel.
Yeah, disciplinary reasons is what they're going with, Alex.
They have no run game. They can't stop the run. They're 31st against the run. They're 32nd in rushing yards per game. So I think that opens it up for the 2 running backs on Atlanta. I chose Bijan Robinson. If you tie him up, anytime touchdown and Falcons money line, it's plus 110. So that's how I'm playing this game. You said I might hate myself after the morning games with the Falcons, but we shall find out.
I'm trying to find reasons to bet Dallas in this game, and I just can't get there. Just can't get there when it's all said and done because of what you said. I don't think they'll be able to stop the run in this game. I think this is a massive Bijan Robinson game. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a problem with what you did. I would just for me, I'm looking to tie up his yards and his anytime touchdown. Yeah. Getting the rushing yards in the mid-60s, something in that pocket, the low 70s even, I think you can get away with if you want to do that. That would be the only way that I would look to play this game. I'm kind of with you that this total feels high, but then you look at Dallas's defensive numbers, and it's like, all right, Atlanta could score 38 points in this game, and it wouldn't shock me. Again, the Falcons are in tremendous shape to make the postseason at this point. Because we talked about it was survive the first half of the season for the Atlanta Falcons with how tough that schedule is. And now that they're on, if they win, they're 6-3 through 9 games. They still have to go to Minnesota. Other than that, the rematch with New Orleans, they'll be a favorite in New Orleans. A game in Denver, which is tricky because of Denver's defense, but a game Atlanta will be favored in. They'll be favored at home against the Chargers. They'll be favored against the Raiders here in Vegas. They'll be favored at home against the Giants. The only question mark of the games will they be favored in are actually the Kirk Cousins reunion games. That Minnesota game in Minneapolis and a game against Washington in D.C., or Landover, technically. Other than that, they're going to be favored in every other game the rest of the year. They win this game, Atlanta getting the double-digit wins makes a heck of a lot of sense, and winning the NFC South with ease in the year 1 with Kirk Cousins. Only look to tie up Bijan props. That'd be the only way that I'm looking at this game here today. All right, let's go to Baltimore. Lamar Jackson dinged up this week, but he's going to play off the injury report for good. Baltimore's 9 at home against the Broncos, and total's been bet up 2 points. So, Alex, I'm just curious here. Baltimore's defense, I want to start there, where this is not your normal Baltimore defense this year. They have struggled most of the year, even in their wins, except for that just bludgeoning of Buffalo. And also, I'll throw out the Dallas game because they're up 28-3 in that game, and they really stopped playing to make that game close. 38 points against Cincinnati and 7 yards per play in that game. Washington, 23 points for the Commanders, about 5.4 yards per play, better in that game, but they still gave up 23. Tampa, that game was never really in doubt. I get it. Gave up 31 points and 6 yards per play. Last week, Cleveland, 29 points and 6 yards per play. That's a bad defense at the moment here for Baltimore. Now, I think this is the perfect matchup for them. I know Nix has been playing better, but look at the opponents Nix has played against.
Right.
Now you're asking him to go on the road against a defense that is slumping, that gets to see a rookie quarterback. I don't see this ending well for Denver. I like Baltimore. I also like this game under the 46 as well, because Denver's front seven is awesome. And they have the best corner in the NFL in Surtain on top of it. Wouldn't shock me if this game's played in the low 20s, and that should be good enough to get us under 46.
Broncos are 4-0 against the spread on the road this year, so they have been covering that number, and they do have a very good defense, ranked third in total yards allowed and third in points allowed at 15 per game. I didn't do anything here with the side. I think that number is right with 9. The way I decided to play this is with Bo Nix's passing attempts. I'm going over 33.5 because I think they're going to be playing from behind. They'll have to throw the ball more. His median right now in the year is 34, and he's gone over that 33.5 in 5 of his 8 games. So just a couple player props for me in this one. I don't mind the total. It's tough because you talked about the Ravens and their bad defense, but yeah, if they can shut down the Broncos. So nothing for me, side or total, just a prop in this one.
I think I've convinced myself I'm betting this game under, actually, which is scary in a Baltimore game because obviously their offense has been electric when Jackson has been at his best. Last week was just one of, you know what? We see this with Baltimore. We already saw it twice this year, actually, with them, where Todd Monken just has a weird play calling game, and they lose their focus for just long enough in order to lose the game. We saw it against the Raiders in week 2.
Yep.
We saw it last week against Cleveland. Again, I thought Cleveland was a great side, plus the points all week last week. I didn't expect Cleveland to win the game outright. I thought that was a little bit nuts, and credit to Jameis Winston and company for winning that game. Baltimore at home too, and we've seen this too with the Ravens at home when they're coming off bad performances. Yeah. They just come out and they put it on you. As well. But you did mention it. Denver, undefeated against the spread on the road. And not only that, big underdog against Tampa, won outright. Big underdog against the Jets, won outright in that game. The Saints, the week 1 game against Seattle, they were ahead at halftime in that game. Covered some numbers, not all of them, but they covered a closing number at 6.5. And then the Saints game, we just have to throw out. The Saints were not an NFL team on that day. So,
what about Broncos team total under? If you're looking to play instead of even including the Ravens in that,
I still think I'd rather the full game. Look, Denver could cover this game. Like this could be 24-20, 23-17, something in that pocket. Wouldn't shock me. It may be a lot of points for Denver, but I don't know. Denver's defense could also turn Baltimore over and turn it into point. Again, it's hard. It is hard to go with the team totals when you have a defense that is capable of not only stopping you, which Denver is, but they're also capable of producing points for their offense, which we've seen on multiple occasions this year. Denver's defense is awesome. There's no arguing that anymore. They're as good as anyone in the NFL so far the first half of the year. All right, let's go to Cincy next. Raiders on the road at the Bengals. Bengals offense got a lot of injuries today. No Higgins again. No Orlando Brown, their left tackle. No Zach Moss, who's really kind of ceded the number 1 running back position over to Chase Brown, Alex. No Charlie Jones, no Jermaine Burton. Jones is really their number one punt returner. I'm a little surprised this number. We're starting to see some 8s, including a few offshore at some books that really know what they're doing offshore. I'm a little surprised this hasn't touched 8, mostly in Vegas. It's all 7.5 across the board, except for one shop that is a national shop that is one of the bigger brands here in town. If you can get 8, I think I would take it with the Raiders, which, again, scary proposition. Defense is still, again, Spillane, who got hurt last week for the Raiders. If you're looking at Spillane, he is in, but how effective can he be? Not at 100%. But in the end, the Bengals defense is terrible still.
Yeah.
And if the Raiders offense, at least at times, has showed me enough that they can stay in games. I'm not saying they can win this game outright as a $3 underdog. Don't do that. But I don't mind taking 8 points if you can find it. And it is available in some spots outside of Nevada. And there's one spot in Nevada that does have an 8 right now.
I did jump on the total earlier this week. I did not know T. Higgins would be out again, so I thought we'd see a bump here for Cincinnati's offense, but I still think they can get enough done. So I'm over this 45. You kind of just laid it all out there. Raiders can hang in these games, and last week we saw against the Chiefs, and they got Jacoby Myers back, and that really helped their offense. Now, I know that's a huge game for them, so I'm hoping they can do it here against the Bengals as well, but I just think that total is too low, especially the Raiders, who have been known for their great defense, have been giving up a lot of points. They're sitting at 12th right now in total yards allowed per game, which is pretty good, but in their last few games, they have been giving up too many points to opponents. So I think we can get over that 45 combined between these two.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all, just because of the nature of Cincinnati's defense stinks. I just have not played well at any point this year. And I will say this for the Bengals, where I don't want to say this is a gotta-have-it game because, again, there's still enough season to be had. But if you lose this game and go to 3-6 with the next few weeks, you have short week at Baltimore on Thursday, upcoming. Then you go to the Chargers. Then you get Pittsburgh, who, again, the Steelers are improving as the season goes along now. And then at Dallas, who the hell knows what you're getting out of Dallas at that point on that second Monday of December. You lose this game and go to 3-6, you could be staring 3-9 in the face, and adios, see you later, your season's done. You got to get this game as a 7.5-point favorite against the Raiders at home. And look, Cincinnati's already blown 2 games at home this year where they have been favored by more than a touchdown. They blew week 1 against the Patriots. They blew week 3 against the Commanders. We now know in retrospect that Commander line was totally wrong, but we didn't know that at the time of week 3. So you got to handle your business. And they have not handled their business so far this year at home, Alex.
No, and really defensively, right? They were in that game all last week against the Eagles and then just gave it to Philadelphia. So I do feel like this is a gotta-have-it game. They want to go 4-5 into the next week.
Also, Bengals looking forget just winning as a favorite at home. Bengals are looking for their first home win, period.
Wow.
They're 0-4. That beatdown loss last week against Philadelphia, the overtime loss against Baltimore, all 3 of the wins are on the road. At Carolina, at the Giants, and at Cleveland. That's it.
Those aren't great teams.
No.
Either.
1 win, 2 win, and 2 win. That's it. They haven't beaten anyone of quality. Again, for Cincinnati, Zach Taylor, if they miss the playoffs, should be out. But we know Mike Brown let Marvin Lewis coach there at least 6 years longer than he should have. So it might still be okay for Taylor. But you got Burrow. You can't waste these years with Joe Burrow. All right, let's hit one more game, and then we'll take a quick break, Alex. Let's go to a game that I know you're going to be heavily invested in, at least in earlier numbers in the week. The Washington Commanders, who are without Brian Robinson Jr., by the way. That was a surprise scratch this morning. I tried, as soon as I saw that, I tried getting Eckler anytime touchdown numbers, and they were all yanked from the board right away, so I couldn't get them. First matchup between these two teams, by the way, Commanders 4 at the Giants. The first matchup between these teams was back in week 2, which was the weirdo game where the Commanders didn't punt Austin Seibert kicked 7 field goals, and the Commanders won 21-18. That was the game also that the Giants, Graham Gano got hurt, was battling injury all week. They didn't activate a second kicker. Gano re-aggravated his injury on the opening kickoff, and the Giants lost by 3 because they had no kicker. So, bizarre game week 2. Now, scene shifts to the Meadowlands where the Giants, as we know, have been hilariously awful at home. Daniel Jones still has not thrown a touchdown at MetLife Stadium since last September. And here you are now where the Giants have not won at home. 28-6 loss against Minnesota week 1. Obviously looks a lot better than it did at the time, Alex. 20-15 loss against Dallas in week 4, a game that if the Giants visited the end zone at all, they would have won. Then 17-7 loss to the Bengals, 28-3 destruction by Philadelphia. Now they're back home. 44 is the total. Commanders are 4, and there's actually a bunch of 4 juice to the favorite in there out there right now, Alex.
So there is a trend that's pretty scary, and it's home dogs that have lost 3 in a row are 44, 25, and 2 against the spread that next week. With that being said, I am on the Commanders minus 3.5. I just think they are by far the better team. I'm glad you brought up that first game they played too. Week 2 of the season, Commanders find a way to win 21-18. Jaden Daniels had not even thrown a touchdown pass yet in the season. So they won that off of field goals. Now these teams have completely switched. Washington 6-2 straight up, 5-2-1 against the spread, and the Giants 2-6 straight up, 2-5-1 against the spread. It's just been very tough for the Giants, who are 26 offensively right now in total yards, passing 23rd. And on the flip side, we've got this Commanders defense that has improved so much. The whole thing with the first few weeks was, their offense is clicking, they look really good, but defensively they can't stop anyone. Now they've really turned it around. They're 13th right now in total yards allowed. So it's scary. It's a division game, and they're on the road, but I'm with the Commanders.
100% agree on that last part. I think that's the reason that you have to start legitimizing what Washington has done. That defense, like you said, a sieve earlier in the year has been excellent. And they were excellent last week. And quite frankly, I know they melted at the end of the game, even though we all know what happened. Hail Mary to win the game for Washington. That defense has been excellent over the last month. I'll just bring this up, and we'll get to the Chicago-Arizona game in a minute, but I just want to bring this up on a Washington end of things. When you win in a miraculous fashion like that, how do you handle that as a young team? I'll have the same question on the other way with Chicago in a moment, but how do you handle a miracle win like that in a game that Washington really controlled the most of the way and just they ended up losing the game until they didn't last week? It's just so hard to bet the Giants right now, especially at home when Jones has been a above average quarterback on the road in his NFL career and has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL in his home games. 4 is a lot, though. It feels like a lot of points. I kind of like this game over also. Yeah. I know that we were saying that both of the defenses are pretty good. First time these two teams played, 39 points was basically the lowest possible total that game could have landed. Both teams are over 6 yards per play in that game. So I wouldn't be shocked if the offenses are a little better in this game. I'm not betting the side, even though it would be a lean to New York at the 4.
It's tough. I think Dan Quinn's a good coach, though. I think he can get his team ready, and they can use that as momentum more than having a letdown spot.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Vinny will hop in after a 1-minute break. We'll get the perspective of everything from behind the book, and then Alex and I will rattle through the final 6 on the card here today. Sports by the Book on a Sunday at the South Point studio.
South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White, Vinny Magliulo's here. Alex, real quick.
Yeah,
active chat as always.
Yes, and thank you to Bob. He said he has been listening to Chris Andrews since 1992, and he really loves the show. JR, happy Sunday. He's a regular here. We've got Roger and Giovanni also in the chat. So thank you all for joining us this morning.
Great. Love the chat.
Vincenzo's with us.
Good morning,
Vinny,
team.
Rattle.
Let's go.
We only have 2 teams on bye this week and only one game already in the can. So rattle on through what we got remaining and what's going on behind the book.
Let's see what we did opener-wise and where we're at this morning. So Patriots and Titans obviously opened 3.5, and this has gone back and forth, toggling back and forth. Laying 3 with the Titans, taking 3.5 with the Patriots right now. In need of the Patriots as far as the house is concerned. I don't think that's really a surprise. 38.5, not a lot of movement on this total. Browns hosting the Chargers, and the Browns seem to be a bit invigorated, right, with Jameis Winston, even though it was just one game. Chargers allowing the fewest points in the league. Opened as 2.5-point favorites last Sunday night, down to 1.5. So, but believe it or not, we do need the Browns right now. A lot of teaser action and money line parlays with the Chargers. 42.5 on the total is just up a couple of points so far. Saints and Panthers, Derek Carr back, and that's reflected, I think, certainly in the number and the support, but also everybody continues to bet against the Panthers, who are in sell mode, and we did see them get rid of one of their offensive weapons and send them to the Ravens. So 7 here. We have been as high as 7.5. Don't need a 7 in this game with the Saints covering. 44 for the total. Really no movement there. Dolphins, Bills, 6 for most of the week. Did touch 6.5, right? Yeah.
Just moved.
Chris did mention. So today, it's been toggling today because it had not moved up until yesterday. So this one here going back and forth between 6 and 6.5. 49 for the total, which is just up slightly off of the 48 opener. Cowboys and Falcons. Falcons 2.5-point favorites, and did go back and forth between 2.5 and 3 earlier in the week. Right now sitting with the Falcons as 3.5-point favorites, 52 for the total. No real movement there. So more support for the Falcons this week, particularly given the Cowboys injuries and the Ezekiel Elliott distraction. I'm sure you reported the fact that he did not make the trip for disciplinary reasons. Got the Broncos and the Ravens here, pretty much holding steady at 9. Did open the Ravens as 8.5-point favorites. More money on the Ravens, but both teams actually getting teaser play. And when you see teaser play with a number like this, I'd say more pros, right? Because then you can get through 2 touchdowns with the Broncos and get a less than a field goal if you're betting on the Ravens in terms of your teasers. 46, which is up a couple of points in terms of the total. Raiders at Bengals, 8.5 on the opener. More money came in earlier in the week, and a play on the number on the 8 and 7.5 earlier in the week. Did get down to 7, so support for the Raiders, but 7.5 right now in need of the Raiders. I don't think that's really a surprise. Bengals have yet to win a game at home this year. 45 for the total, no movement there. Joe Flacco starts for the Colts, as we know, at Minnesota. This game here opened 6.5. It's down to 5.5, so more support for the Colts, who continue to really play games close. I think every one of their games, 8 games, has been within 1 score. Commanders and Giants. Giants at home. Commanders without their principal running back, Jeff. I'm sure you and Alex reported that.
Out. Yep.
So Giants right now getting 4 points at home. This game's toggled back and forth between 3.5 and 4, but been at 4 for most of the night and morning. Bears Cardinals this afternoon. At Cardinals opened 1, now 1.5. Definitely, we're going to wind up needing, I think, the Bears in this one here. So we'll see what kind of response they have after that that last-second loss last week against the Commanders. Nakua looks like he's going to go for the Rams, and they are now a 1.5-point favorite after the Seahawks opened as a 1-point favorite last Sunday night here at South Point. Total 48.5, holding pretty steady. Lions and Packers, a great game here. Obviously, the weather has been well chronicled. This is probably the worst weather game of the day in terms of rain and some wind. Lions playing their first game outside this season. So it's going to be interesting to see. Jordan Love is going to go. More Packer money has come in. Game opened 4, got as high as 5, and it has been a pretty steady stream of Packer money for the better part of this week. So Lions right now at 2.5 and 48. Total holding pretty steady. Last game on the rotation for today, Jaguars and Eagles. This game here, no real surprise. Eagles 7 to 7.5. This game will probably go up as we get further into the day and into this afternoon. So no real secret that we need the Jags. Totals down from 47.5 to 46.5. And then tomorrow night, Chiefs holding steady as 9-point favorites against the Buccaneers, 45.5, which is a little bit of an uptick, about a point total wise.
All right. Just before we let you go, Battle of the Bourbon last night. Tennessee might have won the battle, but Kentucky got the cover.
Well, I can tell you this. There was plenty of Kentucky bourbon consumed and plenty of Jack Daniels, too. So Chris was right the other day. We should have had a piece of the concessions there.
We should have.
That would have been better than betting the game.
Yeah. Well, it was good for me. Rare did I win a heads up with Chris, but
okay. There you go.
Enough.
Good.
Vinny, thank you.
Great job,
busy day here as
yeah,
always.
it is.
So.
A lot of business, a lot of tickets, honestly. Just folks, we had a great day yesterday in terms of business. Breeders' Cup Day as well. So lots of activity, lots of folks having a good time.
And I hear that you and Chris Andrews and our guy Colucci were all on the correct horse.
All three of us.
You're welcome.
Independently.
You're welcome.
And we did thank you, Jeff, for not playing Sierra Leone as you had for the rest of the year. When we did hear that news, we did
should have tripled it.
relief. So we'll have a little something for you after the show.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're very welcome for that. Vinny Magliulo, everyone.
All right, everybody. Enjoy.
All right, let's go to the afternoon slate, Alex. You know what? 4 really solid games at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific today. And we started in Phoenix, or just outside of Phoenix in Glendale, technically, with the Cardinals hosting the Bears. So I have the same question I had on the Washington end, but the different end of it. How does a young team, after that disaster, the ending, of course, the Hail Mary, you lose in a game that you had an awesome comeback in and you still find a way to lose. How do you handle it coming on the road? Really weird road trip where you go East Coast, West Coast, back-to-back for Chicago. And look, the Tyreek Stevenson is benched to begin this game as punishment for the fiasco at the end of the game last week. Alex, I thought Caleb Williams looked very good in that fourth quarter a week ago. And he's shown me a lot over this last month plus after a really tough start to his career. Caleb Williams, again, Daniels has looked more comfortable. I get it. But Caleb Williams looks like the guy who's going to be a superstar in this league. Maybe not yet, but he's going to get there. They faced the Cardinals today, who are one of the better surprises in the league, tied for first place in the NFC West, actually in first right now because of tiebreakers. This opened Arizona 1, went to a pick. Now it's Arizona 1.5 here, Alex.
This is tough. I really shouldn't probably be betting on the Cardinals or against the Cardinals because I think I've been on the wrong side for a majority of their games. But I do like the Bears. And to your point, it's not really the offense that I'm really concerned about and their reaction. Their defense is really good. I do think that they will respond and they will show you that they are still really good, even though they gave up that Hail Mary at the end of the game. Defense does travel. They're 11th best right now in total yards allowed compared to the Cardinals, who offensively, they have been great, and Kyler Murray has, really led them to late victories as well. And I think that's been the toughest part in handicapping this Cardinals team is they've won in the last drive in a couple games here. But defensively, they're still 27th in total yards allowed, 26 against the pass and against the run. So I think the Bears will be okay in this one. I took the 2 points, but I'll probably jump in on a little bit of money line here for them to get this win.
It's a shame he left. 2-way action on this game. Cardinals, for me, they played the second toughest schedule in the NFL so far this year. They end the season with the third easiest schedule in the NFL.
Cardinals. Okay.
Arizona. So they have gone through a gauntlet, have made it out 500. Now, look, I think their next 4 games are pretty brutal. Or actually, really, their next 5 games are not easy. It's really the back end where you get New England and Carolina. But Chicago, the Jets will probably be a favorite in that game on the road next week. Especially if Arizona loses this game. Not saying that's right. I'm just going with what I think the market will do.
Mm-hmm.
Then Seattle and Minnesota. So it is, even in an easy stretch, a tough one at that, based off of what the numbers say. Kyler Murray's playing the second best football he's played in his career. The only time it was better was that 7-0 stretch to begin the season when they made the playoffs 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how Chicago responds to what happened last week. It's just a gut check loss, and you have a bad coaching staff to boot. Not a good mix for me. I like Arizona in this game to move the 5-4 on the year and get another one before the Jets come to town a week from now. All right, let's go to the NFC West matchup. Puka Nacua looks like he is going to go, even though he suffered a knee injury again in practice earlier in this week. The Rams on the road at the Seahawks here. Alex, I was a little bit surprised that this got bet quickly in the week to the Rams favored, but then it was apparent DK Metcalf wasn't going to play, and he will not today. Tough handicap. Rams have had plenty of success against the Seahawks over the last few years, though, including beating them down in Seattle a year ago in week 1. It would only be the Rams for me, but I'm not overly confident in this game.
I'm not overly confident either, but I guess I do like the dogs here in this late window because I did take the Seahawks plus 1.5. I also teased them up to get 8.5 with a partner. So I think this number, I think they should be more of a pick here with Seahawks at home, and that is a DK Metcalf number without him in there. It's terrifying because they looked awful last week against the Bills, but I'm going to go with that quote that we always use, that you're never as bad as you were the last week, because they looked awesome the week before against the Falcons. So I think if they can get some things going here, and their defense really needs to step up, because, I mean, they were barely on the field, or they were on the field the whole time. Buffalo controlled that whole game. So defense needs to step up here, but it is a division game. You're getting points at home, so I'm going with the Seahawks.
Seattle, I think, needs this game. I know this is weird because the Rams are behind them in the standings, but I think Seattle needs this game more than the Rams based off of last week where, all right, you beat Atlanta on the road, you come home, you got a good crack at Buffalo, and you just got annihilated by the Bills a week ago. And with San Francisco looming for the Seahawks, we know the Seahawks don't beat, at least in these versions of the teams. Feels like this is a game that's more important for Seattle, despite having that extra win that the Rams don't right now on the virtue of LA's bye. All right, the game of the day, Alex, the Lions at the Packers. Jordan Love looks like he's going to play, and the market's telling he's going to play. This was as high earlier in the week as 5 when it looked like it was going to be Malik Willis again. Now it's down to Lions 2.5. 48 the total. Vinny mentioned it. First time outside for Jared Goff and company. Yep. And boy, did they get a great weather game. And it's not good for anyone when it's 50 degrees, 100% chance of rain in this game in Lambeau today. Now, it could be colder, obviously. You can pop a game in the mid-30s in early November every once in a while in Wisconsin. But to me, the under is the best play in this game at 48. Now, going under on Lions games is always a tough thing to do. We know how explosive their offense is. We know their special teams and defenses are both capable of scoring. But the Packers defense is still not getting enough credit for how good they've been this year after that week 1 debacle against Philly. And, of course, yes, they didn't play well against Minnesota either. But other than that, they've been great for the most part this year. I expect a turnover from Goff in this game. I expect this to be a little more sloppy than it should be because of the weather. I like under 48 in this game, Alex.
I don't hate that at all, especially because of the weather. I will say, though, both teams are really good against the run. Yep. So, I mean, if they are shutting them down, both of their run games, they might have to go to throwing the ball a little more. I took the Packers at 3.5. I don't know if I love it here, not getting that whole field goal, but I think this will be a tight defensive game between these two. The Lions have looked awesome, but you're right. This is a very good defense that they're going to go up against with Green Bay. I'd also got to be careful, though, because we got to see how good Jordan Love looks if he is 100% here. So think you missed the best of the number now, but I lean to the home team here getting points.
This is such a good game. This is such a good game early in the season. And look, for Green Bay, I think we all know at this point, there's no doubting Detroit anymore. We know what they're one of the elite teams in the NFL, if not the elite team in the National Football League at this point. For Green Bay, they're 2 steps up against NFC competition this year. And I'm not counting the game against Houston because I don't think Houston's all that good. And Green Bay struggled to win that game. They had some turnovers that made that game closer than it should have been.
Yes.
But the step up in the competition in the NFC, they have not played well in those 2 games. So that is a little bit of concern here because Philadelphia beat them in Brazil. Minnesota was up 28-0 in that game, even though the Green Bay only lost by 2. So we'll see how the Packers up their game here against the best team in the NFC at the moment in Detroit. All right, let's go to Philly. This was supposed to be Sunday night, but flexed out because the Jaguars struggles this year. Jags at Eagles, 7.5 behind us. The rest is 7 juice to the favorite, Alex. So I think you're in. I know I'm in the camp of if you can get your behind to the South Point by 1 o'clock Pacific time, 7.5 with the Jaguars is good here in this game. I think this is a close game. I don't think Philly blows it outright, but I think Jacksonville's finding ways to lose close this year. So 7.5 is a lot of points in this one. I would only take with the Jags.
I like the over in this game.
Okay.
And it kind of goes with the Jags there, but I think that 46.5 is a little low. I actually made it over 50. Actually, the Jags 5-3 to the over. So Philly has trended a little bit more to the under 4-3. But you're right about Jacksonville. I mean, they have covered in 4 of their 8 games. So it's not like they're getting blown out in these. And the Eagles, their defense has improved, but I still think it has some holes. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, their defense has been terrible, 29th in total yards allowed. And Philly's offense is really clicking right now with all of Jalen Hurts' weapons finally back, and Saquon there, of course. So over for me in this game.
I have no problem with that. Wouldn't shock me if this is both teams in the 30s, even like super over in this game. Jacksonville's offense, when Lawrence isn't turning the ball over, Jacksonville's offense actually has been good the last month since that disaster against Buffalo on the Monday night. It's just that Lawrence turnovers have really gotten in the way of things, including last week. Lawrence doesn't have that ridiculous fumble inside the 5-yard line. They might beat Green Bay outright last week at home in that one. Instead, Jags are 2-6, heading for what looks like yet another lost season down there in Duval County.
So this is Doug Peterson's second time being welcomed back to Philadelphia from after coaching there. So last time, October 2nd, 2022, the Eagles won 29-21. So higher scoring game, but that might be a little extra motivation for the Jags as well.
That was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
And that was, remember, Jacksonville got off to the awful start, then got hot, won the division.
Yes.
So that was earlier in the year. I believe that was a slop fest. There was a lot of rain in that game, and it still managed to go way over the total, if memory serves me correctly on that one. All right, Sunday Night Football. Vikings welcome the Colts. Flex game in, Alex White. And I disagree with the market move on this game. Chris and Vinny and I had a whole thing. We actually tweeted it out earlier in the day over at our Sports by the Book handle. The discussion that I think this is a short-term, small game potential for Indianapolis with horribly bad long-term ramifications for Anthony Richardson with going to Flacco in this game. For this one, I don't think this is a great matchup for Flacco. You're going up against a defense that pressures the passer as good as anyone. You have a secondary that's held up pretty well for the most part, especially when we know Brian Flores' exotic blitzes. Minnesota is still in the top 5 in pass rush rate so far this year. I don't think this is a great spot for Indianapolis, and in front of everybody too. I think Minnesota rolls this thing, losing 2 straight games. Get focused after the mini bye in a game that was a coin flip game. They lost to LA last week. I like the Vikings. I like the Vikings to win by 2 scores. I think 5.5 is cheap on Minnesota here.
I have not done anything with this game yet. It is a tough handicap here with the news and them going back to Flacco here. But the Colts have been competitive. They're 5-3 ATS, 5-3 to the under. But the Vikings as well. I mean, besides those 2 losses, They covered in 5 straight games. So it's going to be a good game here. I agree with you that I think Vikings need to turn it around after losing 2 in a row. It'll be interesting to see what we get from the Colts. I'm still not impressed with their defense, though,
Nope.
and I think that is the biggest issue here. It's not even the quarterback position. I agree with you, though. I think that this is short-term solution, and maybe they want to try and make it into the playoffs, but I don't think that they are going to go on a long playoff run here. So I don't think it's the right move here for Indianapolis.
Yeah, I don't think going 10-7 and getting the 6th seed and losing to Baltimore or Buffalo by 2 touchdowns in a wild card race is really worth what you are giving up potentially and just ruining Richardson's confidence for good after 10 games. It's silly. By the way, Vinny mentioned this before. The largest margin of victory in an Indianapolis game one way or another this year is 6.
Wow.
So every game has been tight so far this year. But if Minnesota wins by 6, that's a cover in my book when it's 5.5, Alex White. All right, one last one before we get out of here Monday night.
I will say, though, really quick, sorry.
Please.
I did go with some Aaron Jones props here in this one. His median on the year is 93. You can get his rushing prop at 73.5. So I think that is a good play right there. Or if you want to do his rushing and receiving, it's 105. And he does get some catches as well.
Indy's rush defense has really struggled on the year. Real quick, before we get out of here, you and your dad will have a preview tomorrow on this, and at 9 a.m., Ryan and I will got you covered at 3 tomorrow afternoon Pacific time. Kansas City's 9 and a total of 45.5 tomorrow against Tampa Bay. I'll just say this. I like this game over. I know Kansas City's defense has been awesome this year, but I don't know what's happened to Tampa's defense. They just are brutal and have been basically for the last 5 weeks. This feels like another good spot for Kansas City's offense to wake up. I do like this game over, even though 44.5 was much better than 45.5 for sure.
This is such a tough game. I mean, the Chiefs undefeated at home. Can they get too comfortable here knowing that Tampa Bay is out 2 wide receivers?
Yep.
I don't know. 9 points is a lot in the NFL, but Tampa Bay really, like you said, defensively struggling, and without Evans and Godwin, it's tough.
That's all the time we have for you. Alex and Kenny are back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. previewing this game and the whole slate across hockey, basketball, everything on the card tomorrow. Ryan McCormick or I are back at 3 tomorrow on Football Frenzy, previewing that game. And also, again, looking back at a wacko college day yesterday, which playoff perspectives, a lot different now for sure. Good luck on all your plays. Good luck on all your...
Tuesday, we'll get our first preview.
Yes.
For college football.
The first rankings.
Yes.
Coming up. Alex, good work. Good luck on all your plays.
Thank you. You too.
Drew Dog, Sean, thank you. Everyone in the chat, good luck. Win some bets. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again tomorrow on Sports by the Book.